Hello, welcome back. I've got another good friend of mine today, Adam Butler, with me here. It's been a little bit of a layoff since the last video, so I appreciate you coming on, Adam. If you don't mind introducing yourself, where you're from and where you're coaching, we'll kind of crack on with the talk.
No problem. Yeah, I am Adam Butler from London, England, and I'm the head men's soccer coach at Coastal Bend College
Great.
down in Beeville.
Beeville, Texas, what a place.
Yeah, well, they don't
Great place.
make them like these.
I think where we're going to start is kind of the obvious question with everything that's happening in the world right now. How has this kind of pandemic and everything that's going on affected yourself and your program down in Texas?
Um, we're in a bit of an unknown situation. We are obviously being a junior college. We have a lot of internationals, as most programs do, and especially in our conference. So freshman wise, we're all trying to get visas and embassy appointments and that kind of thing right now, which is pretty much up in the air, as I think most of the embassies around the world are still closed.
Yeah, I think we're kind of having similar problems with that. I think the international boys is I think the real big worry for most coaches at the moment, whether or not the visas are going to go through. I think most are pretty confident that it is, but I think the sad reality is right now is the world we're living in. You just don't really know at the moment. With your team, you're predominantly international guys, you'd say.
Yeah, we have quite a few players from Houston, but majority is definitely international. We have a lot of returners this year due to a big freshman group last year, but there's still the freshmen are definitely this year are going to be a worry.
Yeah, I think with junior college as well, that's going to be especially tough because as you know now, like you basically recruit half, if not a whole team every year. So like the freshmen are so important coming in as they make up probably majority of the roster, even though you do have a big group of sophomores coming back. I think that's probably going to be a really big problem for a lot of junior college coaches, the fact that maybe some of the freshmen might not get in.
Yeah, it's a reality. Every day we have a bit of a worry about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's one of them things. Hopefully, if that is the case, everyone will be in the same boat.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of silver lining, I guess, is everyone's kind of in the same situation and it's going to be whatever it's going to be kind of thing. Let's crack on a little bit into yourself. So obviously being from London, your upbringing in soccer or football is going to be a little bit different than what most of the American boys go through. So if you don't mind kind of talking about how you started playing, your youth career kind of thing, how that went for you, that would be great.
Yeah, my dad played, so you kind of just get into it, and never really took football too serious, to be honest with you. It was just something I enjoyed doing and wanted to play with my friends. And then at like 16, I ended up going to some kind of open trials down at Hayes and Yedin, and then got involved there. Was a bit nervous, a bit out of my comfort zone. Was just for a friend of a friend's, and then joined their BTEC program at East Berkshire College. Played for the college, played for Hayes and Yedin, and then ended up being kind of college was BTEC was my thing. I did all right in kind of them, finished with a couple of distinctions, and then the education and soccer path, combining them, was definitely something that was interested to me. And my coach actually knew someone that had a company sending players out to America, so I got involved with that. Ended up at Southwestern Christian in Oklahoma City.
Okay. So like for the guys that don't really know, like the BTEC is obviously like massive in England. I think it's getting bigger and bigger every year now. So how can you kind of describe that for anyone watching? Because I know there's some American boys now that go over to England to do the BTEC route. So how would you kind of describe that, compare it to kind of like the American system a little bit?
I would say it's in between of kind of high school and college. I feel like there's a big step up from high school to college football and education, from when we speak with American students. And I would say that college in England kind of fits in between them two. Like I said, I finished school at 16 and then went to college for 2 years. And it actually helped me transfer in some credit into Southwestern Christian. I didn't have to take some classes, which saved me a bit of money and a bit of time, to be honest.
Yeah, that's always nice as well, bringing in a couple credits to kind of kick you on a little bit of your freshman year. So transferring over, you went straight into Southwestern Christian in Oklahoma. How was that transition for you from London moving over to Oklahoma City? Did you kind of transition pretty well and pretty quickly, or did it take a little bit of adjustment for you?
No, it wasn't smooth. It took a lot of adjusting, different way of life. Obviously, it's slap bang in the middle of the Bible Belt, as it's commonly known, which was something that was definitely foreign to me. But it took me a while to fit in, but it was definitely the best decision I'd made was definitely coming out and getting involved in the college system, and being a product of that.
So did you do all 4 years at Southwest Christian then?
Yeah, I did three and a half. I graduated in December of my senior year. So,
okay. So you think going back now, like if you were to kind of go through the system again as like a young boy in England, do you think you'd make the same decisions, or do you think there's anything you'd do differently?
No, I'd go to a junior college.
Okay.
I kind of got comfy in Oklahoma, to be honest, and we set up with a little job. I did some refereeing or coaching on the side, and I was a bit comfortable, to be honest with you. I just never really wanted to step out there. It was that's probably the best way to put it, to be honest with you. I didn't really consider any of my junior college offers.
Yeah.
I assumed that a 4-year university was better than a 2-year. That was my perception.
Okay, now obviously you're in the junior college game now. You're seeing it from a different perspective a little bit. I myself, I went to junior college. I'm a big advocate of the JUCO route. Now you're kind of coaching there. What would you say is like a big advantage of maybe going through the junior college rather than going straight into your 4-year school?
The two that I mainly preach is the fact of myself at 18, I was like 150 pounds, I believe, which playing against some of the men we were playing against in college is the best way to describe it. I just wasn't physically ready. Whereas a lot more of the junior college players tend to be 18, 19.
Yep.
So you're playing against people that are more your own age. I know there's exceptions as well. And then the other one is the academics, having your smaller classes and being able to concentrate and having that little bit more time, and understanding how important a grade is, how important it is getting a B instead of a C or an A instead of a B, especially when you're close.
Yeah.
A lot of my boys now are going on and getting academic scholarship as well as athletic, which that wasn't a category that I even put myself in because I was uneducated in the system.
Yeah, I think you got it spot on there. I think the first point, especially, I was small. I was even smaller than you when I came over. I think I was about 130 pounds. I was proper skinny, kind of. I'd played a little bit of men's football back home, but it's completely different over here. And I think if I'd have gone straight into a 4-year school or like a big university and try to play against them 22-year-old American boys that have been in the gym for 4 years, I think I'd have got absolutely crushed. And maybe at the time I didn't really want to admit that because I thought, I'm a player, I'll be good. But I think going the JUCO route was massive for me as well. I think the academic side is huge. I don't want to say the classes are easier at the JUCO route, but I think you do get a lot more help from the teachers. And like you said, it's a bit more of a smaller community. So if you do need something from admissions, rather than you just being one of 10,000 students, more than likely the admissions people are going to know who you are and be a little bit more willing to help you. So that's kind of what I found myself going through JUCO and then coaching at JUCO I think it's a very, very good option for a lot of boys.
Yeah. I was also surprised by the level too, to be honest with you. I assumed that the standard of play would have been better at a 4-year university, at that 4-year level. But to be honest with you, it's not. Especially in like I said, Northeast, the Region 14. What we've seen and what I've seen of that is most of them teams would walk into any conference that I've seen around the country and do well.
Yep. I think you're spot on. I think it's undervalued by a lot of people, and I think maybe it's not the players' faults coming over. I think maybe some of the agencies and the club coaches, the high school coaches really undervalue it because they haven't really seen it. And like you said, I think the region that I was in with you guys last year and the year before, I think majority of them teams could go into our previous region that we had in the NAI and the 4-year schools and do very, very well. So I think it's just kind of doing your research and figuring out individually what's the best option for you as a player, rather than I'm going straight to a 4-year school and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's difficult to transfer out of your 4-year school as well. Not every coach makes it easy for people and kind of wants the best for them. There obviously are exceptions, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but that is, everyone wants a bit of success for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. It's definitely easier to transfer from a JUCO than transferring from a 4-year to a 4-year, I think, for sure. So let's kind of kick into a little bit how you started coaching. I know you said you graduated a semester early. Was that kind of how it led you into the coaching path a little bit?
Not at all. To be honest, I went, and once I graduated, I was working in a gym as a personal trainer, and then I ended up going to Mississippi to play PBL. Kind of wanted to try and do something within football. Ultimately, I'd done a little bit of high school coaching, but I wasn't ready for that. And then I ended up tearing my ACL in Mississippi about midway through the season, and the James at Southwestern, he offered me to come back and kind of get involved there straight away. So bit his hand off and got into doing club soccer at Oklahoma Celtic, and got my foot in the door in college.
So it was never really like, let's say when you came over as a 18, 19-year-old, you didn't really have that in your head, I'm going to be a coach, when I finish. It was just kind of one of them off chance things. I think the surprising thing for a lot of people that I've spoke to is it's been kind of similar. Like I was the same way. I never really thought I was going to be a coach,
Yeah.
And it kind of just seems to fall in place for a lot of guys as they kind of come towards the end of their college career. So was it similar for you like that?
I always knew I wanted to be involved in sport in some way. I wanted to come over and do sports science and try and get involved in like being a sports scientist,
Yeah.
that stuff. But yeah, the coaching thing, it kind of just fell into place, and it was something that, being around people, the coaches at Southwestern and other coaches that you end up speaking to, it was just something that you thought, oh, maybe doing their job would be all right,
Yeah. So we obviously played against each other for, I think I was there for 2 years. I'm not sure how long we were there together, but how was your experience in general there at Southwest Christian as a coach rather than a player? Was it kind of weird for you going from a player to a coach at the same school, or not really?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Trying to coach some of the players that you'd played with is definitely interesting at times, and it's kind of takes you have to put a different turn on your life, to be honest with you, trying to go from that player's mentality to a coach's mentality, and then trying to be seen in that way. I felt like it did take a year or so for that to happen, but it is difficult, to be honest with you. I feel like going to a college where you were a bit unknown would have probably been the easier route.
Yeah, I think for me, I was a little bit lucky in that scenario that I never played, at Wayland. I came in as, like you said, a little bit of an unknown, and I think that way there's no prejudgment, if that makes sense. Whereas you kind of play in there, people already had kind of this idea of who you were and your personality and stuff, and it can be difficult at times to get people to understand that, I'm not your best mate anymore. I'm not playing with you anymore. You got to listen to what I tell you, kind of thing. And that transition from a player to a coach is, I think, one of the most difficult things for a young coach to kind of go through. I mean, I've had a couple young guys with me as my assistants, and I think they've said the same thing. At the start, you kind of coach as a player, if that makes sense. You're still in that player mindset, and you're coaching as a player, and then at some point it kind of clicks for you, like, oh wait, there, I'm doing this completely the wrong way. I need to change the way I'm thinking, kind of thing. Did you go through that experience there at Southwest Christian?
Yeah, definitely. And the other coaches that were there and worked alongside me, they were like a bit older than me, but they weren't. They'd gone through the same thing a couple of years prior, and then there wasn't really anyone that's kind of. It's a long industry, you know what I mean? Like being a football coach, a soccer coach, is something that people do for 40 years, and you build that knowledge. So we never kind of really had anybody that was kind of done it forever, which you'll see a lot of people we play against have just been doing it all their life, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think having like someone a little bit older, I mean, it was the same thing at Wayland. We played against you guys, and we had the same kind of thing. We are all kind of young coaches. I think all of us were within maybe 3 years of each other.
Yeah.
Head coach down to the GAs, assistants, everything. All of us were pretty young, so I don't want to say it hurt us a little bit, but I think it's always good to have someone that maybe has a little bit more experience, a little bit of knowledge, that can say to you, like, hey, like you guys need to do this a bit better, or you need to do this a bit better. And I think that would be kind of one of the things that I would not regret, but I would have liked to have had that experience as well. And it's probably the same for you, because you've gone straight from Southwest Christian into now a head coaching role. And I would say I have a lot of guys now that I can talk to and get advice from, but I wouldn't say I've had that kind of really older, experienced guy that's my boss that's kind of taught me stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it kind of changed when I was at Southwestern. The head coach changed during the period where I was an assistant. So it kind of changed from one dimension to the other, and that was good. I did learn a lot, especially kind of doing the stuff that you don't think about as a soccer coach, the business sides, the kind of politics sides, even admissions and how that kind of works. It really that kind of helped having someone more experienced helping me.
Okay. So obviously you transition now from assistant at Southwest Christian over to the head coach at Coastal Bend. Was that a big kind of jump for you? I know always moving anywhere is a big decision, and I'm sure you're happy where you're at now. But was it difficult for you to make that transition?
No, I knew it was the right time for a change and to do something different. But yeah, it was getting myself out there and out of my comfort zone. I had it good in OKC, and it was something where I was comfortable. Whereas it was doing something totally new, and coming down to a program where things were very different. For example, just it being a state school alone rather than a private institution, there's a lot more paperwork, a lot more procedures, a lot more, kind of people in place that you have to go through as well. So that was different. But yeah, it was hard moving away, but also it was easy, and we knew it was the right time.
Okay. So what would be like if you could name kind of one thing that you think surprised you, once you'd moved down to Coastal Bend, being the big dog now, the man in charge, like what was the kind of one thing that you would say maybe you didn't expect that you kind of learned pretty quickly and when you did take over down there?
It was the conference. I was thrown off, to be honest with you. I did do research, and obviously Tyler's the one team down there that everybody kind of knows. But I was surprised at how good everybody is, to be honest with you. And that was one thing I had to quickly adapt to. Was in the SAC, like we where we'd been before. There's games where you're going to win, which is, and then there's bigger games that you have to prepare for. in Region 14, it's not the same. Every game you could win, you could lose, probably you could lose pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We were 3-0 up in one game, and it was 3-3 before you blinked.
Yeah. I think the standard is definitely a lot higher than people think. I think I'll be honest with you, I think I was the same when I went to Northeast. I not underestimated it, but obviously again I knew of Tyler and I've watched them play for a couple of years. So I knew they were a good team, but there's other teams in the region that I didn't really know much about, and they did definitely surprise me a little bit. Where I'd go into my first year maybe thinking, we're going to go to this team and this no problem, be an easy game. And we might have ended up winning, but it definitely wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. So I think I'm definitely with you there on maybe underestimating it. And maybe that's a problem for a lot of young coaches, maybe, when they go into their first job as a head coach.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I know that's one thing where I had to quickly change my the way that we prepared, and kind of every game's a cup final.
Yeah. I think for me, the other thing that not I struggled with, but was kind of a bit of a pain for me was the paperwork side. Like, I'd done a lot of paperwork stuff at Wayland, and I thought I knew, what I was going to have to do. But then when I got to Northeast, there was so much stuff. Like, especially when I ended up taking over both teams, it got really, really out of control, I think, at one point. And I think that's one thing that people don't see, in a soccer coach is they think it's all kind of roses and you just go to practice and you hang out with the guys and you go to eat with them. But there is another side to it that is probably 80% of the job, I would say, that a lot of people don't see.
And how important your assistant is.
Mm-hmm.
You sometimes you don't realize how good they are, and how important they are. The staff that you have around you, even our goalkeeping coach is now taking a role as a dean at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I had to step in and be the goalkeeping coach in practice a few times in the off season, and it's difficult, Like people earn their money in football. To be honest with you, like my assistant now, Roger, he's absolutely fantastic. To be honest with you, and he was the one that was coming straight out of playing last year, so I think he struggled to adapt as well. But he's been an important part of Coastal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think having a good assistant, especially for the younger coaches that do end up getting their first kind of job, is like you need some good people around you, that you can trust and that are going to help you out. Because realistically, I don't think there's anyone that can do this job by themselves. As much as people want to think, I could do it, like, you're going to end up killing yourself if you're trying to do everything yourself. And it is a very, very demanding job. I don't think it is as luxurious as a lot of people think. And I think as a player in college, I was maybe a little bit blind to that. And I would always see my college coach and be like, he don't do nothing. Like, he's got an easy life. You know what I mean? But there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, and it's a lot more stressful than a lot of people think. And I think that's the one thing that I've learned as in my kind of 3-4 years now as a head coach is it's not as easy as people think. And everyone thinks they can do it, but everyone can't do it.
Yeah, my hair's quickly thinning since I've taken over.
Mine's gone. It's gone. Yeah. I think it's definitely a lot more than what most people would consider. Even as an assistant, I think I undervalued it a little bit. And I don't think you really kind of realize until you are the head coach and everything's kind of on your plate, and not you have to do everything, but you're the guy that's in charge of deciding who does what. And you do a lot of stuff that maybe you don't really want to do, but you have to at the end of the day.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, so let's jump on a little bit, looking towards next year a little bit now. So obviously we spoke a little bit before about the international boys, visas and all of that, but let's say best case scenario, everyone gets in. What's the goals for Coastal Bend next year? Do you think you're going to have a good squad and you should be competitive again?
Yeah, if we can get everyone in, I've got a great recruiting class of freshmen, and like I said, we've got a good mix of a lot of returners. Hopefully, I wanted to break that top three. To be honest with you, for the next year, top two, top three. Obviously, it's going to be different with yourself not being in our region. But like you said, there was Northeast, Berlin, and Tyler that were all nationally ranked last year. So, want to put ourselves in that category. To be honest with you.
Yep.
Just try and build steadily a quality program. I always say if we can be better tomorrow than we were today, then we're doing the right thing.
Are you able to keep your staff together the same from last year, or is it changing up a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to be completely the same again next year.
Okay. So that's always good to keep your staff together and progress from one year to another. I think that's another thing with coaches is there's so much chopping and changing now with jobs, and people are going all over the place. I just took a new job myself, so I can't really say much. But I think having a steady staff is massive in any kind of college department, and it can be a massive indicator of if you're going to be successful or not. So I think the fact that you guys have been able to stay together is going to be a big bonus for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've kind of both done our little areas of recruiting and kind of split our workload well, to be honest with you. So we always have a little bit of competition with who's got the best players in and that kind of stuff too. So healthy. We're looking good, mate. It's just fingers crossed. COVID has thrown a spanner in the works.
Of course, yeah. It seems like for everyone that's kind of the main topic of conversation at the moment. So I think what we're kind of go over a little bit now is with yourself being a young coach, and there's obviously so many people now similar to us that when they do finish college, this is kind of the route that they decide they want to take, and it's obviously it's not easy. It's not easy to kind of get into the game and stay in the game, I guess. So if you were to give like some advice to maybe a young coach that's just graduated from college and is thinking about going into college, what would you tell them looking forward as if they're trying to make a career out of this?
It would definitely be to start your qualifications and badges as soon as you can. I kind of put it off and was looking at the price of them when I was in college and saying, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that yet. I'm going to put that off." That would be the first, and then the second would be to get out there and kind of socialize and ask questions, and kind of even if you're going to the convention and the people that I always used to say, "Oh, they're busy," kind of they're the people that are successful, especially in the soccer world. They're the people that really do well. So that would be my advice. Would definitely be to get out there, do some volunteering, kind of see how it works, ask questions, and knock out your qualifications, because they really do help. To be honest with you, you learn a lot in them.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the second point. I think I was similar. I always used to say the same thing, like, "Oh, that guy's so busy and like he's always talking to people and like just give it a rest," kind of thing. And I think that's a mentality that it needs to go away, because realistically, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, the connections is what makes you successful, really, in the sport here in America. Is a lot of it is who you know and people that are going to vouch for you. And I would say that would be my one main piece of advice: is talk to as many people as you can. I can't even tell you how many different coaches I talk to every week now, and it might just be picking up the phone just to have a chat like with yourself and see how things are going, and just building them kind of relationships. I think is massive for any young coach that's trying to make their way through up, because you never know who's going to be able to help you at the end of the day and who you can help back. So I think the relationship side of it is very undervalued. And I didn't really respect it when I first started coaching. I thought, typical, foreign coach over here, you kind of think you know everything and you'll be fine. And the reality of it is you do need people's help, and building them connections with different people is a massive, massive part of it.
Do you feel that's like a British mentality?
I think so. I think so. I think I've seen a lot of British coaches over here that I kind of look at differently now in a way, whereas not in a bad way, but like I think that guy, he thinks he knows too much. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's necessarily a British thing. It might just be an international thing. I'm not sure, but I think that's definitely a problem for the younger coaches coming through. Is that they need to realize, you don't know everything. This is a completely different environment than what you're thinking it is. And by building them relationships and learning from as many different people as you can, you're going to help yourself be successful. I don't know if that's something that you've seen as well from the British or the international boys that do try to get into it.
I was just meaning the British, we're quite closed off. We don't really get out there and speak to people that we don't know.
Yeah.
We're the ones that have got into coaching and really ended up thinking the same way that we do, kind of regretting not making contacts and socializing straight away. To be honest with you, that's one of my regrets. I kind of kept myself to myself for a long time. To be honest with you,
is that something you think, as a young coach, that you would say you need to improve on a little bit, is making them connections and establishing kind of more of a wider net of people that you can talk to about college and football and all that kind of stuff?
absolutely. I'm kind of one of them people where I don't really speak to people I don't know very often, and that's something I've been definitely trying to work on. And I do feel, in terms of coaches, especially in America, they're very welcoming and want to speak to you, want to chat to you, even if it's talking about their own problems or kind of asking about yours. To be honest with you, it's a nice group to be a part of.
Yeah, I think we can even look at our own experience. Like when we first met each other, we knew of each other for maybe 2 years, I think, before we had a real conversation. And I understand, we at the time, we were rivals and we wanted to beat each other and everything. But like, imagine if we'd have started talking them 2 years. Like you probably don't even know this, but I've learned stuff from you that I maybe use in my game now, and maybe the same from you with me. And imagine if we'd have started that conversations 2 years before, it could have been very different. I think a lot of people are stuck on that stubborn, like, it's me against everyone, it's my team against everyone mentality. And I think I've definitely learned that since I've become a coach of my own team.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. To be honest with you.
So yeah, I think it's definitely something that every coach needs to evaluate, I would say.
Yeah, even when you were at Ireland, we were like that concentrating. We were concentrating that hard on kind of that game and trying to catch you guys that we didn't even think about picking up the phone and asking anything.
Yeah, it does get a little bit like that, and I can understand why. With the competitiveness of everyone. But the reality of it is now, we're good friends. We've been friends for a while now, and could have been started a lot earlier if we'd have just not been as stubborn and thought so one-dimensionally about, we got to win, we got to beat them.
But you think about how much kind of maybe you're sending me a student that's a better fit for my program, or vice versa. Now imagine that years ago. You know what I mean? How much time we've kind of wasted.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's a good kind of point there to finish it up on a little bit. I appreciate you coming on. It's been about 30 minutes or so, so I think we're kind of rounding out the time there. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye on you. I know you've got a few boys down there that we're going to be watching next year for sure. I'm sure you guys are going to have a top season, so we'll be watching, and hopefully everything goes well with the international boys so they can get over and the season goes ahead smoothly and everything works out fine down at Coastal for you.
Yeah, mate, I appreciate making the time for me and kind of wishing us best for next year. And I hope that you kind of get Davis and Elkins rocking next year, mate.
We're gonna try. All right, man. I appreciate it, and we'll catch up at some point soon. All right.
All right, mate. Take care. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.